Morning, welcome back after half term, after Easter break. I hope you all had a lovely break. I have collected the scores in from last time, and the book we are going to be reading for the next few weeks is The Nowhere Emporium by Ross Mackenzie. Let's get started straight away. It's an exciting book to read. So first of all, we will start with the prologue. So a little bit before. Give a nice look at the title. Quite an exciting book, and actually the front cover opens up, which is lovely. Okay, the prologue. Just find the page. So, the shop from nowhere. The shop from nowhere arrived with the dawn of a crisp November morning. Word travelled quickly around the village, and by midday, the place was abuzz with rumour and hearsay. There were 4 shops in the row yesterday. Today there are 5. Did you hear that? It sits between the butchers and the ironmongers. The brickwork is black as midnight, and sparkles strangely in the light. By evening time, a curious crowd had begun to gather around the mysterious building. They jostled for position and traded strange and wonderful theories about the shop and where it had come from and what it might sell. All the while hoping to catch the glimpse of movement through the darkened windows. The shops were indeed built from bricks and the colour of midnight, bricks that shimmered and sparkled under the glow of the gas street lights, blocking the doorway with a golden gate so fine and intricate that some wondrous spider may have spun it. Over the windows curled a curling letter spelled out the name, the Nowhere Emporium. There was a glimmer of movement in the entranceway. A ripple of excitement passed through the crowd, and the silence fell. A silence so deep and heavy that it seemed to hang in the atmosphere like a mist. The shop doors swung open. The fine golden gate turned to dust and scattered in the wind. The air was suddenly alive with 100 scents, the perfumes of toasted coconut and bacon and bread, the salty sea air, the fresh fallen rain, of bonfires and melting ice. A dove emerged from the darkness of the shop and soared through the air, wings flashing white in the blackness. The enchanted crowd watched as it climbed until it was lost to the night, and then, as one, they gasped. The black sky exploded with light and colour, and the message in the dazzling fireworks sparks and shimmers spelled out. The Nowhere Emporium is open for business. Bring your imagination. The writing hung in the air just long enough for everyone to read it, and then the words began to fall to the ground, a rain of golden light. The crowd laughed in delight, reached out to catch the sparks as they fell. Everybody who gathered outside the Emporium was entranced. No one had seen such a spectacular such as this. One by one they walked forward, touched the sparkling brickwork, examined the tips of their fingers, and then they stepped through the door to find out what awaits. 2 days later, when the shop had vanished, a stranger arrived in the village. He was polite, and he paid for his room with stiff new banknotes, but something was about him. His startling height, perhaps, or the hungry look in his cold blue eyes, troubled the villagers. He asked questions about a shop built from midnight bricks, but the tall man couldn't find a single person in the village who could recall the Emporium. Within a day or two he was gone, and all the traces of these strange events faded from the history of the place. Those who'd walked through the Emporium's doors had no memory of anything they might have seen inside. More importantly, none of them recalled the price of admission. The little piece of themselves they'd given for the glimpse of the Emporium's hidden secrets and wonders. Bring your imagination, the sign in the sky had requested. Okay, so that is the start of the book. That is the prologue, so that is before chapter 1. It's given a bit of history. I'm going to give you a bit of a clue. You need to listen out for the guy, or the stranger, should I say, which has, what do they say, cold blue eyes. Okay, because that pops up quite a lot. So you might need to try and piece that together. Right, chapter 1. A chance encounter. So this is Glasgow, present day. Glasgow is in Scotland. Look out, coming through. Oi, watch where you're going, wee man. Sorry, Daniel Holmes darted through the Saturday shopping crowd in Glasgow, pushing and twisting and weaving. His lungs burned and his legs ached, but he did not stop. He couldn't stop. Spud Harper and his gang were chasing him, and everyone in the children's home knew that if Spud Harper was after you, you didn't slow down. Daniel wheeled left at the butcher shop, almost slipping on a blood-red puddle. He turned into a narrow street lined with old bricks and housing, the fashion boutiques, restaurants, and the coffee shop. Carved stone angels and gargoyles seemed to watch the streets from high above. Daniel's head swung right to left. Where next? He wondered how far he was from the bus station. He imagined jumping onto the bus and heading to the coast, where he could stow away on a boat and escape from Glasgow and St. Catherine's, somewhere where no Spud Harper would be there. Not crying for your dad, Spud yelled for him, somewhere back amongst the crowds. You were wailing like a baby in your sleep again last night. The whole home heard you. Daddy, Daddy, don't die, Daddy. Ha ha, don't worry, wee man. We're through with you. When we're through with you, you have something else to cry about. Spud and his gang were bigger than Daniel, and faster and stronger. Sooner or later, they'd catch him. He sprinted across the street, jinked into the nearest shop and slammed the heavy door shut. He clutched at his chest and walked through the darkened glass of the door, crouching out of sight. He could hear Spud's gang shouting as they thundered past. Where'd he go? Where is that wee weasel? Must be up here. Daniel's shoulders sagged. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply. The air was infused with the jumbled perfume of furniture polish and dust, and something like melting chocolate. Then he opened his eyes and for the first time became fully aware of his surroundings. The shop was a cave of wonders. Everywhere he looked, Daniel saw something he wanted to pick up, to hold, to have in his own, have as his own. Silver and gold crystals gleamed and sparkled in the light of the spitting fire. Intricate wooden clocks and mirrors of varying sizes, splendid covers of the walls. Tiny fish flashed like bars of copper in a glass tank. There were porcelain dolls, wooden soldiers, rusted swords, stuffed animals, columns of books as high as the ceiling, jewels that seemed to glow with a silvery light. A stuffed polar bear sat in one corner, eyeing the shop like a watchman. Every particle of dust caught in the bar of the sunlight seemed to glow like little stars. How did you get in here? We're closed. The voice startled Daniel. In the far corner of the room stood a grand desk with feet carved like an eagle's talon. Behind the desk sat a small man in a dusty suit. His wavy brown hair was wild and tangled, falling over his handsome face. His hand hovered over an open page, clutching a fountain pen. He stared at Daniel with eyes the colour of thunder clouds. Sorry, said Daniel. Didn't mean to bother you. Someone's chased me. As he spoke, his eyes were drawn to the book on the desk, which had begun to tremble against the dark grain of the wood, as if there was something in the pages trying to get out. The man in the suit frowned. He glanced from Daniel to the book and back. Then he snapped the book shut, locked it away in his desk, and got up, marched past Daniel to the door. See, he said, pointing at the sign hanging on the door that read closed. Closed. He tried the door handle, opened the door. I could have sworn I locked it. He spun back to face Daniel, staring at him through a narrow eyes. Who's after you? And the man raised, big boys from my children's home. The man raised an eyebrow. You're an orphan. Daniel nodded. The fire snapped and cracked. What happened to your parents? Said the man. Daniel thought that was an odd question for a stranger to ask, but he didn't want to be thrown out onto the streets, so he answered. Dad was a fisherman and died at sea. Mum only lasted a couple of years after that. That seemed to satisfy the shopkeeper. And why are these big boys after you? He said. There must be a reason. Daniel folded his arms. Yeah, there's a reason. They're goons. Spud and his pals think they run the home. They take things from other kids, important things like reminders of their parents and stuff. Nobody ever stands up to them. But I couldn't take it anymore. I followed them. I found where they kept their stash. I got everyone's stuff back, and I explained if the other kids stick together, Spud and his gang can't get to them. Spud didn't like that. A little man in a dusty suit jutted out his bottom lip and nodded, disguising a smile. Ah, bullies, I see. He wandered around from behind his desk. What's your name? Daniel Holmes. Well, Daniel Holmes, I know how it feels to live life in the shadows of a bully. We have that in common. Really? Mm-hmm. I tell you what, you can wait here until you are sure Spud and his gang is gone. Yes, sir, thank you. It's no trouble, said the man in the suit. Now, if you excuse me, I have business to attend to. He turned and wandered back towards a velvet curtain of rich, deep crimson at the back of the shop. As he reached it for the curtain, he paused. Daniel, do you have a favourite animal? Animal? Daniel thought for a moment. It's a bit weird, he said, but I like magpies. People say they're the cleverest of the birds. There's a rhyme about them. Ah, said the man in the suit. One for sorrow, two for joy? Aye, that's the one. Very good, said the shopkeeper. He smiled to himself and then said, Well, I must be off. See you, said Daniel. Hey, maybe I'll come back and buy something from you one day. A fleeting smile crossed the man's face. Oh, I wouldn't be too sure. Returning customers are very rare in this place. And with that, he was through the curtain and away. Daniel peered out of the window, which was tinted sepia, so that the outside world looked an odd kind of photograph. Grey Glasgow rain had begun to fall in flat drops. Puddles were gathering on the road. Spud Harper and his gang were long gone, but Daniel was keen to have one last look around before he left. He wandered towards a table scattered with metal toy soldiers. He picked two of the soldiers up, imagining that one was himself and the other was Spud Harper, and staged a fight between the two. Daniel's soldier was about to throw Spud off the table when something startled him. A soft fluttering sound. He dropped the toys and stared at the red curtain to the back of the shop. Another flutter. The curtain had waved gently. He edged forward, his heart racing. When he was close enough, he reached out a trembling hand and slowly, gently touched the material. A burst of red velvet, the sound of flapping wings, and two silver birds exploded from behind the curtain. Daniel ducked and spun, and the birds flew across the store and landed on a column of stacked books. They were magpies. They weren't like no magpies Daniel had ever seen before. They were made of brilliant, gleaming silver. Every feather, delicate as a shaving of ice, reflected the flames in the coal fire. The silver magpies fixed him with shiny ruby eyes, twitched their heads to one side. How? Whispered Daniel, treading softly towards them, though they did not shy away as he advanced. When he was really close, he reached out a hand. Are you real? His fingers touched upon the cool silver of one of the magpie's wings. The bird let out an indignant call and flapped away, leaving its twin back towards the curtain. But when they reached the rich red velvet, the birds did not fly through. Instead, they exploded with a flash, and a shower of rubies rained down on the shop floor. Daniel's mouth hung open. What's going on out there? Came the shop's owner's voice from behind the curtain. What was that sound? Nothing better be damaged. Suddenly, unsure of exactly what he had seen or what kind of place he had stumbled upon, Daniel made for the door. A little bell sang as he dashed out of the rain and down the street. A moment later, the short man in his dusty old suit stepped from behind the curtain, stared around the shop, then he leaned over and plucked two of the magpie rubies from the floor, rolling them between his thumb and fingers. His hands closed around the stones, and when they opened once more, the magpies were sitting in the palms, brilliant silver, almost glowing in the gloom. The man in the suit released the birds and watched them as they circled the shop before settling once again on a column of books. Then he smiled a wild and clever smile, and then disappeared back through the curtain. Okay, that is the prologue and chapter 1. We'll pick up the rest of it tomorrow. I hope you're enjoying the book so far. It's a very, very entertaining book. I'll see you all again soon. Take care.